Scientists before me have described it as Africa's least known, least understood, least researched wildcat species in Africa.
On this episode of Financially Incorrect Uganda edition, we talk about one of the most difficult animals to find, the African golden cat.
People told me when I was starting my career with the African golden cat that why would you want to spend the rest of your time studying an animal that you'll never see and that you'll never even be able to collect any data on.
Mwezi Mugerwa is a Ugandan winner of the 2025 Indianapolis Prize Emerging Conservationist Award, an award that includes a $50,000 grant. He's a research biologist, a National Geographic explorer, and a PhD scholar in Germany. Everyone in his circle thought he was mad when he picked his first job. Hear about his salary.
Don't do the maths. And I had a girlfriend. And this girlfriend, she was one of the people who told me, like, you cannot do this. And then she left. I was like, yeah, it wasn't meant to be. If it was, she would have stayed.
Yes. We hear about the 5-point Ugandan man dealing with a dental procedure when too broke and too far from a dentist.
And then I was like, open your mouth. So my colleague opened his mouth, like, oh, okay. Then he dusted his hands. He picked one of the equipment from the computer workshop.
Yeah.
He was like, open your mouth again. My colleague opened, like a pliers.
He
pulled it out.
How he dealt with comparing himself with his peers throughout his career. He tells us how he found a mentor, honed his skills in grant writing, and his organization now receives grants between $15,000 and $100,000 USD.
I sent him this black and white image. He was like, this is the African golden cat, and you have just stumbled on gold.
He also tells us how he draws a salary from his work. This is a money story about the rare pursuit. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Financially Incorrect, the Uganda edition. We are excited to get this going in 2026. Collins actually asked me if I'm going to say this is the first episode we're recording. It's the first technical Uganda episode we're recording this year. But I don't know in what order it will go in. But it's the first one we're recording, so that's why I am excited about recording this. We have taken in your recommendations. Those who watch the Uganda editions and those people from Uganda and our Ugandan fans who have given us a lot of feedback on who they'd like to see. And so hopefully you've done better. I think we have a much better, not much better because everyone has a money story, but we have a guest list that's more in line with what you guys wanted to see. So hopefully we're able to bring that to you. The other thing is yes, there's 2 links in the description box. One which is please do recommend, and this again is if you're in Uganda or in Kenya. Please do, if you want to recommend someone to come onto the podcast, please check the link in the description box. Let us know who the person is. Whether you have access to them or not, we'll be able to try and find them. The second one is a forum where we're trying to get as much feedback as we can about the Financially Incorrect brand and the things we can do to help you guys in your money stories and everything, in your money journeys. So please do fill that in. It'll allow us to be able to create better products for you. So getting on to my guest for today. His name, I'm going to read it off because he has a very impressive bio that I wasn't able to memorize it. But so I have Mwezi Mugerwa, I hope I've gotten that right.
Spot on.
Right, who is a Ugandan winner of the 2025 Indianapolis Prize Emerging Conservation Award, a prestigious honor that includes a $50,000 grant for researchers under the age of 40 who have made significant impact on species conservation. He's also a research biologist, a National Geographic explorer, and a PhD scholar in Germany. He has education from Uganda, Canada, the University of Oxford in the UK, and he has published papers in high-impact wildlife conservation journals. He's the president of the Society of Conservation Biology. He's a husband, a father, a CEO, a founder, and a director of 2 conservation organizations focused on African wildlife with a special focus on the African golden cat. Welcome to Financially Incorrect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I've gotten to half the bio. I haven't read it all. I just said, let me end there. But yeah, welcome to Financially Incorrect.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I really enjoyed, maybe to give context, the reason why we're shooting this in Kenya, because obviously we're in Kenya because you can see the studio, is because he goes back and forth between Uganda and Kenya. So when you reached out to him, he was like, oh, I'm actually in Kenya at the moment. So we're shooting this in Kenya, but it's a Uganda edition episode.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed like trying to, do a little bit of research to try and figure out, a little bit more about you. So when you can come and speak, I have a bit more context.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed getting into the conservation sort of stuff. I have a twin brother who's big on wildlife, and yeah, like his dream
Nice.
is to, like, fly and count elephants and that kind of stuff. And
Nice.
so it was really like, I guess it, like, reminded me about him and that process. And I didn't know much about the African golden cat either until today.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Not so many people do,
Yeah.
actually. Not so
Yeah.
many people do.
What do you find most fascinating about the African golden cat?
Yeah, I've had this question so many times, but even myself, even though I've been working on the species, conserving and researching the species for the past 15 years,
Yeah.
I'm learning every day. Every day is a learning opportunity because we don't know much about the species. And just in a couple of years, when information started building, about the ecology of the species, the conservation status of the species. But to me, putting that aside, that we know so little about the species. Scientists before me have described it as Africa's least known, least understood, least researched species, wildcat species in Africa. So that in itself is very fascinating. But then when you start scratching the surface a little bit, and then you get into its science, its biology, there's so much fascinating facts about the species. And as I said, it's every day is a learning opportunity for me because even now, even personally, I'm still learning every day.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that you're hearing about it for the first time. The first time.
What's the most recent thing? What's the most recent fascinating thing you learned about the species?
I just got to learn this a couple of weeks ago, that this animal gives one live birth once a year, and 70% of the time it's one kitten or one cub. So that throws so much light on why we don't know so much about the animal. It means the animal is really naturally rare. One live birth, 70% one kitten. Now, if you get that picture and you paint it in the wild, where the conditions are quite rough, there's competition, there's predation, there are all these things happening, it means that even that one kitten, the chances of surviving in the wild are also very slim, because this is a solitary animal, meaning that it's once the animal reaches sub-adulthood, the mother splits from the child, from the kitten, and then the kitten has to fend for itself. Now, if you think about it, if you're a sub-adult, you're in the wild where there are hunters, where there are all these problems, chances for you to survive in the wild are very, very slim.
Yes.
So that makes so much sense that it's been described as one of Africa's rarest wildcat species.
Right. And in that context of 70% of birds are one kitten.
Yeah.
What's the context for other wild cats? Like what the leopard, lion, what would they do on average?
I mean, if you think about, for instance, lions, I think we should speak to the lions because of I think the most known cat species. First of all, they live in prides, in families. So it means that even taking care of the young is a responsibility of the pride.
Right.
Compare that to the African golden cat, where the mother gets a kitten and they're just the two of them, and at some point they have to split. So the chances of land cubs surviving in the wild are way more higher than for a species that gives one birth, once a year.
Right.
And also, like, as in a pride, you have multiple females as well. So you get like lots of contribution of cubs from different females. Again, you don't get that from the African golden cat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what primarily is your work now? I mean, we've talked about the two different conservation organizations that you've worked with, and even the award that you've won.
Yeah.
So what primarily is your work?
That's always a very difficult question.
Yeah.
Because I'm evolving, and I've been evolving from 2010 when I started out doing this work. I started out as a hardcore biologist, studying the biology of the African golden cat, studying the biology of wildlife species in general. And then later on, I started getting... Actually, that's not true. I started as a forester. So I was trained as a forester to plant trees and conserve trees and forests. And then after my first degree from Makerere, I moved to Bwindi Impenetrable National Park, which is a beautiful landscape. If you haven't been, you should. In the southwestern part of Uganda. And when I go there, I was running a biodiversity monitoring program, which involved camera trapping. So basically, the automatic cameras, you put out them in the forest or in the wild, and then they automatically take pictures of anything passing by, including wildlife. When I was hired to run that program, the African golden cat showed up in my first ever survey.
Right.
It showed up in the cameras. And I was like, what is this? Like, I'd never seen anything like that. And even the people I was working with at that time, 30 years of experience in the forest, they had never seen anything like this. So that piqued my curiosity. And I started slowly shifting away from the forests to animals, to wildlife. And so I started doing basic surveys on the African golden cat. And the more I learned about the African golden cat, the more questions came to my mind. And then I started slowly shifting from doing hardcore biology to doing applied conservation. Because from the ecology I was learning, it quickly jumped out to me that the threat to the African golden cat may not be our limited knowledge of the species per se, but the people who are living adjacent to the areas where the species is present. So I started working with people. So I brought in the people component in my work, and that led to the two organizations that you mentioned in my bio.
Right.
I started with Embaka, which is a small community-led registered NGO in the country. It's a grassroots organization working with local communities living to the last meter to the national park where the African golden cats are present.
Yeah.
And Embaka is the Uganda has near 50 different languages. So Embaka is a word from the Ruchiga language for the African golden cat.
Right.
So it made so much sense to create an organization and you name it after a species in a language that local communities understand.
Right.
And that was around, I think, between 2015 and 2019. And at that time, the work I was doing had picked so much traction that it was already spilling across borders. So it wasn't only in Uganda, but there was interest even outside Uganda to bring these conversations in those spaces.
Yeah.
And then that's when the second organization you mentioned in my bio, the African Golden Cat Conservation Alliance, it's a mouthful. But we prefer calling it AGCCA.
Yes.
It's just easier, AGCCA.
Yeah.
And then that's when the AGC was created to basically replicate what I was doing in Uganda in terms of conserving the species and mobilizing communities and other stakeholders in conservation. And we bring these projects in these countries.
Right.
So, and that's how the work I started in Uganda in 2010 has been able to reach 19 countries now.
Okay.
Across the African continent.
Okay. I'm sure as we get through your story, we'll understand how that growth happened and everything.
Yeah.
Last question I have on the African golden cat.
Yeah.
Because you talked about, when you're doing the camera trapping,
Yeah.
this animal coming across your
Yeah.
screens, and your colleagues had seen it before. So I think from what I've read about it so far, I think I read that it's maybe twice the size of a house cat.
Yeah.
Primary prey is like rodents, I think. What other peculiar things does it have that for me as an average person, I'd see it and I'm like, this is not a wild cat. This is not a house cat. What is this? What other things does it have? Traits, or what does it look like?
You've really done your reading, eh?
I've tried. I have tried.
Yeah, but that's a very good question.
Yeah.
So, outside its physical appearance, as you have mentioned twice or thrice, the size of your domestic house cat. It also comes in 3 different colors. Scientists, they call it color morphs. And actually, I think there is a fourth color moth that has not yet been documented. But I believe there are 4 color moths now. You get them in black or the melanistic moth. You get them in the golden brown, which is where it gets its name from. And that's the most common moth. You get them in gray. And then you get them in a color that's between gray and golden brown. I mean, like, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
For people who study cats, it may not be something new, but getting those 4 colors, that's also unique. For many species, you get the what you'd call the normal coat pattern, and then you get the melanistic.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard about the panthers, the black panthers.
Yes.
You know, it's normally what you call the normal morph and then the melanistic. You don't get like all these flavors of gray and then yeah. So I find that like really, really fascinating.
Okay.
But also even the diet, as you have mentioned rodents, but you also know they kill prey that's bigger than that. For instance, in the forest where they live, there is we call them dikas, but like it's basically small-sized goat.
Right.
It can grow up to maybe 8-10 kilograms. When you look at the picture of the African golden cat, you cannot imagine that can bring down a goat, but they do. An animal size of a goat, but they do. And I've witnessed some of their fascinating behavior, how they even hunt from the ground. They hunt monkeys. So this is an animal that predominantly uses the ground for its activity. But if there's an opportunity to jump and pick a monkey from the branch,
it can
3 meters off the ground,
3 meters off
the ground, it will do it very comfortably. It's mind-blowing how it does it. So we have seen it in videos, again, from camera traps. They hunt monkeys, they hunt pangolins, they hunt birds, they hunt basically anything that uses the forest.
Are they dangerous for me as a regular human? If I run into an African golden cat, should I be like...
Yeah. It may not consume you.
Yes.
It may not consume you.
Yeah.
But they're actually very ferocious. I've seen them in captivity. They don't want to get close. Yeah, like the moment you get close, like it has like this very loud hiss that tells you, please stay away. And if you look at the canines, those are not small canines. You know, I mean, it can bring down a goat.
Yeah.
So as a human being, it may not, do much damage to you.
In the sense of life and death.
Like life of death,
Yeah,
but then you may end up with some scratches.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen them like when they even try to come at you. So you're standing, between a mesh, and like it really just wants to go through the mesh to come at you. So they are not very people friendly.
Right.
That's for sure. So I don't think it may consume you, but you may end up with some injuries and wounds.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. That's been like a really interesting lesson that we've started with. So I want to get into your story now. So where and of course I'm not very, very familiar with Uganda, but to the best of my ability, like we've done in the other episodes, I'll try my best.
Yeah.
But where do you grow up? Where does your story start? What kind of money background do you come from?
Yeah. I'm born and raised in Kampala. So for so long, I always looked at myself as a city boy. But that was basically through, my child upbringing, through high school, through university. And the moment I finished university, I left Kampala. And that's when I moved south to Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. Which was, at that time, it was a 10-hour drive from Kampala. Of course, now we have good roads and the highways have been improved. So now you could do like maybe between 7 and 8 hours. But at that time, it was over 10 hours. And once I moved to Bwindi, my life changed completely from the city boy to the forest boy.
What was money like in those formative years? What did your parents talk to you specifically about money, or how did you learn about money very early on?
So the knowledge I have about money, even before I moved to Bwindi, And I think this is something that also was behind my decision to leave Kampala, to leave the internet and the electricity and the water, to move to the remotest rural part of the country. My mom used to say a lot, okay, money is important, obviously, but it should not be what drives you as a human being. You should have values. And once you have values, money will follow you. And when money follows you, just know money is a visitor. It means money comes and go. And that's why money should not define who you are. Because today you have the money, tomorrow you don't have money. But the lesson from that is that when money comes to you, you treat it as a visit and you treat it very, very well and carefully. One of the things that I remember vividly, her mentioning that, for instance, taking loans for you to quickly accumulate money, it's something that she used to speak about to us. That's something she used to be very against about, that loans don't always end up the way people normally speak about taking loans, for instance. I talk to business people, they tell you like, oh, for a business to thrive, you must take loans. Like you cannot be a businesswoman or a man without taking loans. And this is the narrative that my mom disagreed with. She believed that someone could start small with however small money you have and start building that money through saving it, through treating it, as carefully as you would treat a visitor. And when I moved to Bwindi, I've told this to my wife before, I was earning 150,000 Uganda shillings per month.
That in Kenya shillings is not very much. I tried to do the math.
Don't do the maths. You don't even do the maths.
Yeah.
And even in Uganda at that time, it was nothing.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of background noise from my peers and even from my family that, come on, you're a graduate. Why would you accept a role in the remotest part of the country and you're earning 150,000 Uganda shillings a month? People could not get their head around that. They could not see the logic. But for me at that time, I wasn't thinking about money. For me, I was just passionate. Like I'm going to a place that not so many Ugandans have been.
Yes.
And as my mom used to say, you take what you have and then you start building it, and then you see where it takes you. So for me, even going to Bwindi, like money was not something on my mind.
I have to ask you though, because you hear people sort of look back in hindsight and make statements like those and say, I made this decision and money wasn't a factor. But was there not a day or 2 or 3 days where you're in this remote part of Uganda where you're saying there's no power, electricity, water, you're on this 150,000 UGX and you're like, my friend, what am I doing here? Are there no days where you're like, this is a mistake? This is a mistake.
Oh boy. You're really scratching deep right now. It affected my social life to some extent. I've never told this story to Hazel, and who's
here. But she's here. So she's still the first one who hear it.
And she'll watch this on TV, so I could as well just bring it up. At that time, I had just finished university, and I had a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And this girlfriend, she was one of the people who told me, like, you cannot do this. You cannot just go in the middle of nowhere to earn 150K and you expect to be around.
Yeah.
And she stood right by her word. After a few months when I left, she's like, bro, you know what? I cannot do this.
We're done.
For me, I was waiting for you to finish university, and then you introduce me, and then you give me a big wedding, and then you give me a big car and a big house. Yeah. And now here you are accepting offers for 150K, and then she left. But for me, even that, I was like, it wasn't meant to be. If it was, she would have stayed.
Yes.
Right?
Fair enough. But even this 150K, budget it for me. Like, how are you living on this 150K?
Oh man,
over a month?
So luckily, because it was a very remote part of the country, it means also the cost of living was really, really low. So all I needed was to buy mobile data for my phone, to keep communicating with people back in Kampala. And luckily, there was no phone reception at the biological field station where I was based. So for you to access internet, you had to walk like 2 kilometers from the station. To find a place with, like, you find an anthill, you stand on top of that anthill, then you can communicate with people. So it meant that it was too much work to communicate anyways.
Yes.
So I didn't need much phone credit or data anyways. So what I could do, I could stay in the forest for 3 months, accumulate that 150K, so then it would come to like 450K, and then I would make a trip to Kampala.
So they're giving you housing and all of that?
Yes, we had student dormitories.
Okay.
Because it's a biological field station,
Right.
so we are staying in student housing, and then the 150K was meant to basically to buy our food, pay our medical bills if they are. Send some money back home, and of course there is always black tax.
Yes.
So you always have to budget that on that 150K. But for me, it was small money, but I used to manage, to live and also take care of people I used to take care of at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like you've really stretching that 150K. Because I'm trying to figure out what medical bills are you paying with that?
It was tough. I can give you an example, and it will kill me to share this story.
Yeah.
One of my colleagues were with. I remember vividly. I shared this story with Hazel.
Yeah.
Who's, by the way, dentist.
Yeah.
and I shared this story from one of my colleagues about his dentistry experience. So we are in the middle of nowhere. He has this toothache. It's been bothering him for weeks. He was like, bro, I cannot stand this pain anymore. I need to get this tooth out. It was a Sunday morning. Because it's a small village, we have a very small health center, and this health center doesn't have a dentist. A dentist comes once a week. So now this is Sunday, there's no dentist at the health center. So my colleague says, you know what, I'll just go and see if they can give painkillers, I'll take the painkillers. So I escort him to the health center. We go to the health center. There is an in-charge who was a nurse. She tells us, you know what, like the dentist not around, but I can find you someone to help you. Remember, we're talking about a toothache.
Yes.
But she has plan B for us.
Yes.
She was like, there is our midwife is down the hill in his carpentry workshop. If you go and talk to him, he may be able to help you. So then we walk down the hill from the health center. We walk into the midwife's carpentry workshop. We find him with this equipment, like busy at work. Then we tell him, bro, like this, we have a problem. We have a toothache. It's been bothering this guy for weeks now, and we have been told you have a solution for us. And then I was like, open your mouth. So my colleague opened his mouth, like, oh, okay. Then he dusted his hands. He picked one of the equipment from the carpentry workshop.
Yeah.
He was like, open your mouth again. My colleague opened, like a pliers.
He
pulled it out there in his carpentry workshop. And then after we said, like, how much should we give? Like, you can get me 2,000 shillings. I'll be happy with that. But I mean, pain was solved.
Yeah. That was it.
That was it.
Wow.
So we are living within our means.
Yeah.
And this is again a lesson, growing up in with my mom and in our household. She always emphasized the importance of living within your means. If it means getting a dentist and you pay them 2,000 shillings to remove, to extract your tooth, that's
So
what
be
you
it.
have.
Yeah.
And that's what you should do.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So how long do you work at this job, earning this 150K? How long are you there for?
That was for a whole year. That was for a whole year before I was hired for another position. That paid averagely at that time. I think it was an average pay for people in my field. Something a disclaimer I should also share with you here is that conservation is not a very well-paying position, a very well-paying profession. And I remember one of my first supervisors mentioned to me.
This is in university.
Now,
when you're working.
Yeah,
Right.
when I was working, she mentioned it that we're getting you from Kampala to bring you to Bwindi, but I'll just probably this already, but I'll just mention that if you're if you're looking to be one of the richest Ugandans, you're in the wrong place. Yeah, I mean, like, she was blunt with this statement, and I vividly remember that statement, that in conservation, don't think you will make lots of money. And it's by design for the people who started conservation as a profession. They painted the picture that, like, this is charity. So you're in conservation because it's a calling. Because you're protecting Mother Nature, and Mother Nature is important for our well-being.
Right.
So even today, it's changing slightly, but even today, there are colleagues I talk to about salaries for people who do conservation work, and they say, no, but they are protecting nature, and nature benefits all of us. Why should we pay you to protect something from which you benefit? And they're like, yeah, but these people have bills to pay. Yes, I understand nature is important for all of us, but at the end of the day, people have dentists who need to be paid to extract their teeth. Yeah, and extracting someone's tooth with the pliers is not healthy. So this lady, she mentioned to me from the first day that you're in the wrong place if you really want
to make money.
to make money. And then after 12 months, when I was earning the 150K, I was hired to a program manager position, which I think my gross salary was around 730,000 Uganda shillings. I don't know how much that is in Kenya shillings.
But that's like 7 times whatever you were making.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Despite what it is, 7 times what you are making.
And that was gross.
Yes.
So
what's the income tax?
In Uganda, the pay as you earn is brutal. I think it's like close to 30%.
It's 30 here as well.
Yeah.
Even here it's 30.
And then you take off the NSSF as well.
How much is your NSSF?
5%.
I think here now they have just passed something. I think it's getting to... Anyway, they have increased it. I don't want to give the percentage and get it wrong, but I know they've just increased it. What's the new NSSF contribution rate? Is it 6%? No, there's one that's like from February 1st. There's a new one. There's a new rate that's going in. Anyway, we'll find out and put it in the Okay, so you have
so all I remember, it was 15% of my gross every month, and then I will end up with something like 500,000 whereabouts. And then like you start splitting it, and budgeting was very important. And again, back to your first question, a lesson from my mom, budget. However small you earn, if you have a budget, you may be able to, put some money to a side eventually. So then like you start splitting, okay, so there is black tax, then there are all these other things you need. And I did that work for 7-8 years.
7 to 8 years.
7 years. And what's remarkable from that story, that I even managed to pay for my tuition fees for my first master's from that.
How?
Yeah.
How?
I paid tuition for myself for my first master's from that 500,000 I was earning every month.
Yeah.
And it was all about, having a priorities. I had a budget. I was like, I have to finish this master's program. Luckily enough, my job had offered to pay for my research component, which is normally the most expensive bit of graduate studies. But then like you have to pay for your tuition. So I knew like every month I have to put aside some money to pay tuition.
And how much was the total tuition for you to finish your master's program?
It was a two-year program, and every year I was paying 3.6 million Uganda shillings.
Okay.
Every year.
About 6 point something million.
For the 2 years.
So I guess you did need to have like a really good saving culture to be
able
to accumulate that amount.
Yeah, no, I was very grateful, for the environment I was living in, because it was it was a very basic, modest environment. So I was protected from all the other, I won't call them fun because I had lots of fun working in the forest. But I was protected from, very reckless spending.
Right.
I would put it that way. Right. And it's not that I didn't have fun. I mean, like, we used to go clubbing, even with the 500K. But Even our clubbing was still in modest space. You know, you're the DJ, you're the bouncer, and you're also like busy partying.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And is this the period within which you're doing the work, you know, where the camera trapping, where you then come across the African golden cat within the 7-year period?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything was happening at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're getting your master's done. You're getting involved in now wildlife. You've moved from the forest.
Yeah.
It's happening within the span of
Yeah.
7 years.
I had my daughter during the same time as
Oh,
well.
really? Okay. How does that happen within the 7 years?
Yeah.
And is your salary increasing
Oh
at all?
my goodness. I don't know how I did it. I really don't know.
Yeah.
But I knew as responsibilities kept on piling on me, so I started re-strategizing to make sure that I meet all these ends. Really.
And you're not taking any loans?
No, I've never taken a loan in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is conversation you'll never bring out in my household. Yeah, this is the worst conversation. The moment you mention loan,
it's over.
It's over.
Okay, so break down for me.
Yeah.
What would a typical month for you look like, especially once your daughter is here?
Yeah.
You're putting aside money to, you know, for the masters.
Yeah.
There's money for the black tax.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the budget of your net income?
So I think, if I remember correctly, in a month I could save at around maybe 5 to 8% of my salary. Around there. Yeah, actually, that was really tough. Think about it in the hindsight. I think that was really tough. But yeah, I think around 5 to 8% in a month.
And the rest was going to the expense.
And then luckily, again, food was very cheap. So one thing you had to forget about is, you know, do shopping from the supermarkets. So we used to do our shopping from the local village market, which used to be every Tuesday. So you walk into this market, you stock your mbogas, you stock everything you need for the whole that week. You stock in the house, and then that will be it. So actually, you knew your budget for meals. At the beginning of the month, you knew like you could not exceed a given amount of money.
Right.
So some of those expenses were pretty standard.
Okay.
And that helped also saving really, really easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other question I have is, at this point, you're probably about eight years into your career.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And at that point, I guess there are a lot of people who are then sort of moving either into management or, you know, whatever your peers may be, whether you studied the same thing or other things. Are you comparing your life to where you are at that point to your other peers who may not be conservationists, but at other careers?
Yeah, you know, that's a very good question. So going through university, I had a best friend. And when he finished high school, he went on to study vet. And then I crossed to study forestry.
Right.
Mine was a 4-year program. His was a 5-year program. And he was very traditional, not in a bad way. But for him, he had this 5-point scale of success for a Ugandan man. So you finish high school, you go to the university, you do your degree, you get a job, you find a house, you meet a girl, you get married, you get kids.
Yes.
Then like you have really checked all the boxes. Now for me, this is not the path I was taking. First of all, when I told him about moving to Bwindi and I was gonna be earning 150K, like seriously, you know, like you're failing. Like on day one after your graduation, you already failed.
Yeah.
You know, you should be thinking about like a better paying job.
Yeah.
And for him, luckily enough, after his degree, he got a very good job with the UK best pharmaceutical. He was earning lots of money, you know, like basically checking all those boxes like really, really fast. So like 8 years into my career, I won't say I looked at him because I wasn't really moved or interested to walk a different. I was walking my path.
Yes.
So yeah, like 8 years. He had two daughters already. You know, he was already the regional manager. He was flying business class from Kampala to Ireland like 3 times a month. You know, like I'm still in my Bwindi. And yeah, he talked to my family, to my sister, tell like, no, I really think he made a very big mistake. And my sister, I said she's a finance person.
Yes.
She was not very happy for me also to take this position, being like, you should be working for oil companies. I know there are conservation opportunities in Total, and they pay very well. They'll be flying you from wherever you are and to go and do these things. And so there was a lot of noise in the background. But I never looked at myself as a failure, which was very interesting when everyone around me thought I was a failure. No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. And when I became the program manager, of course, it was still a little money. But then I paid for my tuition fees in graduate school. And then the world had started to know more about me. So which meant that even funding began flowing in for the work I was doing.
Yes.
So I was doing my research work, I was doing my conservation work. The grants were coming in, and so in some of those grants, the donors who had allowed me to include a small percentage for staff time.
Right.
And because I was working alone, staff meant me.
Yeah.
So that meant also like that I was able to increase, like some of my savings, and I could do other things. And then I started I got a second scholarship to go to the UK, which was fully paid for. And I was, even during that scholarship, I was being paid, to be part of that program.
Right.
So even though I was still earning very little money back home, the friends and the people who knew my story, they were really coming through, and then things began changing. What started as a small grant project of $15,000, at that time I was talking about like hundreds of thousands of funding, in the work I was doing, not in one bulk, but
through the
cumulatively
Yes.
from different funding partners.
Right.
And although a huge chunk of that was going to the
Project
the
itself.
project itself, but also like the small percentages of, I think it was around 5%
Staff
staff
costs,
time.
yeah.
It meant like I was earning a little extra money.
Right.
However small it was still extra money.
Yes.
And because I've been a student for a large part of my life, it also meant that someone has always been paying for my living in one or another.
Yes.
Which is a very good place and to be in, to be honest. But
I have a question around your master's degree, because I actually saw this on X Twitter this week.
Yeah.
And there's someone who was asking, I think they were contemplating doing a master's, and they were asking, what's the ROI on doing a master's? And so I'm curious, because it sounds like for you, doing the master's really opened up the world for you. What would you say was your return on investment? Because you've saved up for 7 years to be able to pay this 6 point whatever million to get through your master's. What does it do for you?
Well, I think my career path was clear from the beginning. And something I should also mention, that I haven't done anything else in my life apart from what I've been doing since I finished school.
Right.
And that helped a lot, that I was investing something that I knew was going to be long term. I never looked at my work as something I was just trying out. I knew like I'm in this profession forever, so it's worth investing in this profession. I think that would have been different if I had different ideas running in my mind, I remember, again, one of my first supervisors in my job in Bwindi made a joke. Again, along those some lines of, if you wanna make money in the wrong place. I remember him mentioning, unless you wanna be a dentist.
Yes.
He made that joke, but I didn't take it lightly. I was like, bro, I've been earning this small money for all these years. You're actually insulting me, telling me that I should start looking elsewhere. Anyways, back to your question. I knew from the beginning that this is the only thing I can do and I should invest in it. Okay. So the ROI was clear from the beginning, and I must say it hasn't disappointed. Yes, I paid for that master's, but then it opened so many doors, myriad doors, both professionally, academically. Like my network just basically expanded across the world. So it was worth every penny.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are you doing at that point in time with these extra 5% that are coming through?
Yeah.
What are you doing with your budget? How is your budget changing at all? Are you living a little larger, or what's happening with this extra money that's now coming through?
Yeah, I know it helped a lot, because then I revisited, that 5 point scale of a successful Ugandan man.
Yes.
So like, okay, then I need a house. Like let's start talking about, buy a small plot of land and start putting a brick to this land. I love traveling, so I did a lot of traveling in that time. I would not call that living large, but yeah. I was definitely living as an average Ugandan, to be honest. I was able to support, my family and people who needed my support for me to be there. Yeah, things changed a little bit. It also meant, like the savings and the money I was putting to the side also increased a little bit. I started living a little bit comfortably, so to speak.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what's the next big thing that happens? Like when, at this point, have you already set up the first conservation organization that you run right now?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So in Uganda, to register an NGO, you need to show, some track record of you delivering the things you claim to be delivering. And actually they go through your reports, they do their due diligence, they do background checks before they give that certificate. They want to be sure that you're who
You're saying you are.
Yeah, exactly. So work leading to the NGO started way back in 2010, but the actual registration came in 2019. But work leading to that was already ongoing. So then Embaka came, and after Embaka, I started coordinating all this work across the continent as Embaka. But then I was advised again by the authorities that I cannot run activities for an NGO happening across the continent as a community-based organization. So then I had to register the AGCCA. So then the two conversations at some point were running in parallel.
Right.
But now Embaka has been swallowed under the bigger umbrella of the AGCCA.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So at that point in time, what's the next significant thing that happens in your career?
So at that time, the AGCCA starts something I was very, very proud about, because, and even now, I think it's the only. Maybe we should give some background to the listeners about what AGCCA is. So the AGCCA, again, it's a mouthful of an acronym, even for myself, but it's the African Golden Cat Conservation Alliance. It's a network of around 47 African nationals in 19 countries across the continent, spearheading the conservation of wildlife in their countries with their local communities, using the African golden cat as a flagship species for them to deliver this conservation work.
Right.
It didn't start with 47 people. It started me. I was one.
Yes.
And then lots of work recruiting and mobilizing and speaking about conservation. I managed to infiltrate all these communities in these countries and identified someone who joined me in that cause.
Right.
So it's the hardest, most challenging thing I've ever done in my life. Looking, at the geography of Africa and the political geography of Africa. West Africa is French speaking, and in Equatorial Guinea they speak Spanish as well. You have Angola, they are Portuguese speaking. Then you have the French speaking, the DRC and Gabon in the Central Africa, and then you have the English speaking. So navigating those hurdles and barriers while building the AGCCA, I think it's some of the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my career. And coming back to your question, I think it's one of the biggest things that happened in my career at that time, because it also meant that people weren't looking at me, as a small grant person anymore. So like even the financial partners, for which I'm super grateful for, the amount of funding that was sending to us also increased, and they started understanding why we need bigger grants, because
Right.
at that time, you need to operate, you need to run an office, you need to run an assistant, you need to pay taxes, you need to do all these sorts of things, you need to
Right.
pay people to a team to help me do the things I was doing. So that was massive. Again, both financially, though not to the levels, for instance, of my colleague I was just sharing,
Right.
but it still, brought me in that comfortable zone, that I don't think I was really straining myself a lot.
Right.
Even though I was not earning as much as, for instance, what my
of
sister was earning, so many years into her career, or my friends. But I was still happy. I was still happy with what I was earning. Yeah.
Maybe you can talk to me a little bit about the grant process and
Yeah.
how you even applied for these grants, how you got these grants, where did you get these grants from, what's the size of the first grant you get to the first significant grant where you're like, okay, now we are sort of cooking. What was that process like?
I like how you put it. Yeah. I really do. I really do. My first grant, that was in 2012, was 15,000 US dollars. And this came from the Mohammed bin Zayed Species Conservation Fund. So it's a very, for people in conservation, it's an household name. They basically find emerging leaders, and then they give you like a startup of some sort in conservation. I'm very grateful to them, to be honest, because I don't think you would be having this conversation with me today. That was my first grant, and it came after I met a very wonderful scientist, who later became my friend, colleague, and mentor. Dr. James Sanderson is the world's renowned expert in the small wild cats. We're gonna shift a little bit from here, and I come back to your question.
That's fine.
When you brought in the lions, and I would like to give our listeners some context when talk about the cats. So we have the big cats and the small cats. The big cats are, I think, around the 7, 8. The jaguars, the leopards, the lions, the tigers, the snow leopards, this sorts of cats.
Right.
And then you have the 33 small cats. So James Sanderson is the world's expert on all the small cats. When I met him in 2010, after I shared that picture from the camera traps with him,
Right.
He was like, "Oh, wow! I've always wanted to mentor someone, a local African, to mentor him or her to work on an African species." Because I believe conservation is only sustainable if it's spearheaded by people from those countries. And he said, all you need is to be passionate, to be persistent, and to be able to persevere. And he mentioned in his email, he said, I see these 3 traits in you. And I'm willing to walk this journey with you. I'm going to make sure you get your first grant. So he made sure I got that first 15,000. And he has walked this journey with me since then. He brought me into his networks as well. And conservation, and I think it's the same for any of the other disciplines or professions. It's all about networks.
Yes.
So he opened that space for me. And then the funding grew from being 15 to our most recent one, which is 100,000 from the National Geographic Society. And again, I'm very grateful for all the financial partners that have walked this journey with me.
Yes.
National Geographic.
First of all, that's just so cool. There's a child in me. There's like a 13-year-old version of me who used to watch National Geographic and would just think, this is so cool.
It is cool.
So yeah,
No. I won't think much about it.
Yeah. So
and
working with National Geographic is just flat out cool.
And it's exactly, this is the answer I was trying to get to when you asked, like, so what was the big thing at that time?
Yeah.
When I was invited to join the Explorer community, that's when I began to feel like, okay, I think now I'm someone. Because like in conservation, like that's the farthest you can go. You cannot go beyond that. You cannot go beyond being an explorer. I think I'm allowed to brag about it.
No, yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, so I think like that's the biggest thing that has happened.
Yeah.
From those baby steps to getting where we are right now.
Yeah. In terms of meeting the mentor, and his name has just escaped me right now. James Anderson. In terms of meeting him, this first image that he responds to, do you send it to him or do you post it somewhere and he just responds to it?
So I did the way you did your work about the African golden cat before I came here.
Yes.
I also did my research.
Yes.
So I did my research and I realized that not so many people knew about the animal at that time, and I was looking for someone who may help me figure out this mystery. So I sent him this black and white image. To our listeners who don't know so much about camera traps, the technology has evolved extensively, but that time we were only getting black and white images. So we're using this big box camera traps. And I get this image, it's in black and white. I sent to him, I was like, Jim, I've landed on your contact on the internet. I'm told you're the world's expert on small wild cats. Here I have an image. I failed to identify. I don't know the animal in the picture. I know it's a cat from the features, but I want to nail down the species. He was like, "This is the African golden cat, and you have just stumbled on gold." Those are his words. He's very good with his words, by the way. He's really very good with his words. And he immediately basically pulled the trigger on me
and said,
"That's when I was like, okay, now it's time to get to work." Go the first Grand 15K, did the first ecological survey in the forest, learned about what the cat eats, how much space it uses in the forest, what some of the threats to the cat in the forest, when is the animal active, like these questions that were not very readily available in literature at that time. And so I didn't post it anywhere. I was on Facebook at that time, but I've not always been a social media person. So like many of my contacts and connections, I've always been through email.
Right.
And I'm still old school with that. I still prefer writing you an email, and I say, dear Barack, this is what we're gonna do.
Kind regards.
Yours sincerely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question.
So
I have a question around the being able to capture some of this data or this understanding. Because and I'm asking this from a layman who watches documentaries on whatever platform.
Yeah.
And you hear about it taking months or weeks, to be able to get a 5-minute documentary of an animal. So what's the waiting like when you're trying to understand what the African golden cat is eating and all those things? How much time does it actually take you to figure out some of that information, and what are some of the things you're doing to be able to learn that information?
And it goes back to what Jim said, that you need to be patient, passionate, and need to be able to persevere, because people told me when I was starting my career with the African golden cat that why would you want to spend the rest of your time studying an animal that you'll never see and that you'll never even be able to collect any data on, So on top of choosing a career in the wild, in the middle of nowhere, I'm even now making worse mistakes.
Yes. Making it even harder.
But I really had belief that yes, it may be a very rare animal, but if I'm creative enough and I'm patient enough and I'm able to persevere enough, I had the passion that I already knew that was unquestionable. I may be able to start generating data on these species. And even with that survey, I was fortunate that I was working in an area where there are decent numbers of the animal, because Bwindi is, for many people who know Bwindi, they know it because of the mountain gorillas. It's one of the 2 places in the world where you find mountain gorillas, and it's a home to nearly half of the world's population of mountain gorillas. So it's well protected, and it's really out there in the news. It's really out there in people's inboxes and people's social media. So I was fortunate to be working in Bwindi, because each and every single data I collected from Bwindi, it meant it was going to move places, because it's coming from Africa's premier protected area.
Right.
So I was lucky in that regard, and even though data took time to come, and even when it came, it was like really small data. It meant the world to so many people who knew about Bwindi, So it was very easy to sell the work I was doing, to sell the African golden cat, to sell the project, because I was working in a very special habitat to so many people around the world. I was patient. It takes time for any elusive species like the African golden cat. It takes time, but once you have your camera traps out, they just have to be patient.
What's the most hopeless you got to when you're waiting for data and you haven't gotten any data yet, or a sighting, or whatever the case is?
I'm still waiting for data that can give me a number, an absolute number, on how many African golden cats are there in the wild. I have no idea. And each time I talk to people about the African golden cat, the first question they ask me, how many are they? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm like, 15 years and you have no idea? like what's going on?
Yeah.
But again, I try to make people understand why even after 15 years, I cannot tell you there are X number of African golden cats in the wild, because the animal is notoriously difficult to count. As I mentioned, there are very few to begin with in the wild. They are super shy. As another challenge to count them. So something which I've waited for so long, to inform myself about is the densities of the actual numbers of the African golden cats in the wild. We are making progress slowly, but again, it's taking so long. And even now, hopefully by the end of the year, we may have some rough estimates.
Better numbers, yeah.
But even those will be rough estimates, because we're just starting it more or less now. So it's taking so long. And it may be very easy for someone like, for instance, your brother, who does aerial surveys of elephants. It's very easy. Jump on a plane, fly over elephants. You can point to them.
Yeah.
You cannot do that with that African golden cat. Or people who are studying with gorillas, you can follow them and count them. Yes. Like, this is 1, 2, 3. You cannot do that with African golden cats.
Yeah.
So we need to be creative with the way we count them. And even now, if you have noted, I've mentioned a rough estimate.
Yes.
Because these are not absolute counts. We are using data we collect from camera traps, and we're converting that data into numbers. I won't go into detail, but like these are like novel, sophisticated statistical methods we use to convert pictures into numbers.
Okay.
So that's really taking so long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. In terms of for the money part of you or your business or your organization, what kind of changes or developments have you had to go through? Because from receiving 15,000 to receiving 10 times, or 8, 9 times that to 100,000, what are the kind of changes that you required to grow through to be able to allow you to be able to get the grants of this size and manage the grants of $100,000?
I think partly that goes back to the investment, because I took a lot of time to learn conservation and how conservation works. I could give a very quick example. Many of the people who get into conservation biology, they come in for the strict biology bits of conservation. So you learn about the diet, the competition, the predation, the numbers, like all these biological questions. And very few cross into the applied conservation, which now I'm doing. Applied conservation, I'm referring to you identify a problem, which for the African golden cat is hunting, and you find solutions to either stop or reduce their hunting. So that's always a very difficult transition for so many people to make. And for me, I think I learned that very quickly when I was beginning out in what I'm doing right now. I realized, yes, biology is very important, but biology will not stop a hunter who's desperate to feed their family to stop hunting.
Yes.
Because it's a basic human right to eat.
Yes.
So, however much I know about the African golden cat, it comes in 4 color morphs, it's Africa's rarest, it's super cool. For as long as I'm hungry, I'll go and hunt. So that was the hard reality that hit me, luckily, early on in my career, that if I really want to save and contribute to the conservation of this animal, I have to work with people. Because the cats are not hunting themselves.
Yes.
It's the people hunting them.
Yes.
So if I can work with people to either stop or reduce their hunting, I think then we can start protecting the species. And this is the narrative I've been very vocal about myself moving forward. And even you asked me about how is it, the grant writing process,
Yes.
like how is that? It was basically me being bold enough in my proposals to put this biology and this conservation, which was a bold move given that the people who are reviewing proposals at that time were predominantly professors of biology.
So they were more. You would assume they'll be more interested in the biology.
Yes. And then here they're reviewing a proposal. Someone is telling them, I'm going to be providing pigs, to local communities as a way to discourage them from hunting. And I go and even now I still get many of those questions. They're like, how would you connect pigs to African golden cats? But again, it's the trainings, that's how I was trained, that conservation is all about knowing the biology. And even my training, there is forget that these animals are not living in isolation. These animals live with people. So for you feeding the people, you're basically creating friends for wildlife. And this is the connection that I started putting in my proposal from the beginning. Some reviewers thought it was very clever because when you unpack and break it down, people see the connection. But also like that, those very hardcore biologists are like, no, for me, I still want you to go in the forest, capture the animal, put a GPS collar, and give me data every day where the animal is, how much it's sleeping, how much it moves its whiskers, how much it waves its tail. There are people who still believe in this sort of data. But also, I think there's a growing community of people who believe that you cannot talk about protecting nature without in isolation from local communities.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you found that because of the approach that you took, you've been able to get more funding or open up a door that for a traditional biologist they would not have access to?
No, absolutely. Because now even many of our funding partners, now this connection is very clear to them. Like we have identified bushmeat hunting as the most severe, the most pervasive threat to the species. And if we are to solve this problem, we have to find alternatives for livelihood for these communities to reduce or to stop hunting. And now it's kind of becoming a very common story in conservation biology that we need to to move beyond strictly p values. Sorry, I don't. I don't. Okay, from we are beginning to move away from strictly hardcore biology to start bringing in people,
real practical,
real exactly
real life application.
Okay.
So in your life now at this point, I'm assuming, because if you go back to this 5-point Ugandan man, you said you had found you had found a piece of land, you started putting some bricks together. So at this point in time in your life, when now the I guess the grants are sort of seem to be coming in a bit more frequently, there seems to be some sort of structure. Where do you begin to put your money, and what's happening for your personal life at that time?
So I started thinking and also educating myself, and also meeting my wife, who's a very knowledgeable about money, by the way.
Yes.
She knows, I think she knows, her knowledge of money is remarkable and admirable. Coming from a household where it was all about self, like bad days may come, have some money in your, somewhere too. I started thinking about, how can I start making this money grow? And also, if you think about, I haven't given you much background and detail what happens in the grant proposal fundraising, but it's actually a very tough space to be in, even for seasoned fundraisers.
Maybe you can give me some context.
First of all, you have to understand your donors. People have money. Much of our funding comes from philanthropists. I don't think we have any funding from public sources. Much of our funding comes from people who care about nature and people who are willing to, contribute to conservation of wildlife. So you have to know there are others. There are elephants, there are lions, there are gorillas, there are plants, there are rivers, there are sharks, there are whales. There is a lot of other things where people would put their money. So for you to come up and tell them that the African golden cat is the biggest investment they would ever make, that takes a lot for you to not only know about what you're selling, but also what those people are interested in. And you need to know that from the beginning, that if you know that a donor is interested in funding bacteria, there's no point giving them a proposal of the African golden cat. Never. Like, it's a complete waste of yours and their time. So you have to learn and to know your donors. And once you make that first connection, and they see that there's value for money, like many of them have stayed with us. James Anderson is a good example. He stayed with us since that 15K, and he's been helping us to fundraise cumulatively. I think I can't put a number, but I don't think I'll share it here. I was going to lie, but
he has been there with you.
He's been able to cumulatively help us put together and attract like lots of dollar signs for conservation, and that has kind of built also our portfolio, because like that's when organizations like the National Geographic come in, because they have seen you're a good investment and the work you're doing is also a good investment, and then they come to give you give you an extra hand to get you across the line.
Right.
That's how the Indianapolis Prize came on board as well,
Right.
because they have seen there's this proven track record of good investment. So then you start slowly moving in from submitting proposals to writing emails. Because now like you have that personal relationship with your donors, and they understand your challenges, they understand your opportunities, they understand your failures, they understand your successes. So they are really part of your story. So that when you write them an email and you'll be like, hey, Jim, there is something that has happened in Project XX in South Sudan. We need $5 to solve this problem. He will tell you, check your account tomorrow. So you get to that level. That I'm not saying I'm no longer doing proposal writing like on paper. Yes, I do, but even that has changed. That I used to write like 30-page proposals.
Yeah.
Now I write 2 pages proposals. So it has changed, but it's because of, again, I no longer have to tell people who I am. They know who I am. So all they need is an idea, and they see that the track and the trail I've walked.
Yes.
So that has changed a little bit. And coming back to your question, now the grants are coming in. I've been practicing what my mom told me: no loans, save your money.
Save your money.
Save your money.
Yeah.
And then I met my wife in 2019, And we start talking about, as any relationship, money is always a very important,
Yes.
very important. I think it's always the first subject comes up when
conversation.
yeah. So like, you're talking about money, she's asking me about my money, and like how I manage all these grants. And then she asked me like, okay, so like you've been very successful, bring this money to the communities, and you're doing really wonderful work on the ground. But have you thought about the sustainability or the future of this funding? It's not something I'd not thought about, because all donors ask you the same question.
What's the sustainability of
What's the sustainability? And I think we have done very well designing and delivering our initiatives in a way that's sustainable. But the reality is, at some point, this funding will stop coming, and your savings will not cut it. Would really not cut it. And then start thinking about, some sort of an endowment fund, for instance, would be a very good thing for us to have. We could diversify it in different products. It could be bonds, it could be stocks, it could be something, but something that goes beyond just saving money. So now this is where we've been looking at. I would say in the past 3 years, this is like the space we are trying to get ourselves in. We are not money people in any way. We are trained biologists, and we deal with people. It hasn't been a very easy conversation to have with ourselves, because our job is to conserve. Money is not something I should be worried about, because it's not my job. But then you realize, actually, for you to do what you want to do for the next 30 years,
you need money.
The way I learned that you cannot take communities out of conservation, quickly I'm learning you cannot take money out of conservation. So you have the African golden cat and the communities and money.
Yeah.
So you need all those three for you to have like a really sustainable, solid conservation program in place.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
That's where you are now.
Yeah.
What changes does when your wife comes into the picture? What practical changes does she bring into your life? Is the philosophy that she's bringing in now begin to change or alter the way you think about money?
Yeah. Okay, I should respond to that more enthusiastically. But again, as I say,
reality.
it is the reality, and coming from a non-money background.
Yes.
Like some of the lessons I was learning from her, like, were really hitting hard. Because for me, I was like, well, I've learned my biology, and I think I'm being successful conserving the species, and there's all this awareness on the species. Like, why are you telling me to think about money? Just let me, bring new projects and expand across the, But then, like, you start learning after we met, and she's asking all these difficult questions, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm saving money, like that's enough.
Yeah.
And like, no, but it's not. If Jim, God forbid, who's been one of your biggest, supporter, woke up and say like, okay, we don't want to fund African golden cats anymore, we want to fund birds of prey or elephants, what will you do? And then started really thinking carefully, beyond just putting money to the side to continue projects 2 months, 3 months down the road. But even in myself, if I woke up and I cannot climb the hills anymore, I have sore joints and ankles anymore. Like, how will that look? If you have been saving, yes, you'll be able to live through 3 months, and then what? So that was really a very scary picture, both from myself as an individual, but also for the work I'm doing.
Right.
But also it came in with other opportunities on which I thought we could start making money for conservation. Conservation is strict non-profit. And again, back to what I said earlier on, that's how it's been structured. But I believe there are ways on how we can make conservation pay for itself. Someone who's listening to us may say, okay, there is tourism, there is ecotourism. Yeah, which is probably the biggest honor for conservation. But how much of that money goes down to the communities where this wildlife is? much of it ends up into our operators,
Right.
paying flights for tourists, paying for 5-star lodges and all these things. It's a good initiative to get into conservation, but also it's a business, and I'm not a business person, so I can't wake up and say I'm going to start a tour company,
Right.
because I don't think I have the skills and the expertise for it. But my conversation with my wife started opening some parts of my brain on how I can be creative also, on bringing in money-making opportunities into my work. And that's how Africanity, the new baby on the block, the new projects on the block came into play. That how can we get people to think about conservation in a way that values conservation, that conservation and nature is not something that comes to you for free. Someone has to dedicate their lives to conservation to make sure you still enjoy the lions, the elephants, and the zebras you go to see in the wild. Someone has to do that job, and those people need to be paid because they have bills to pay.
Yeah.
So this is something we're trying to bring in Africanity.
Have you had any success with that, or is it something you're still trying to figure out?
I think it's been a project that I've been thinking about for the past 15 years, at least in my brain. 3 years ago, we gave it a home. So we did all the branding and the structure and how we're going to sell it to people. It's been mixed success so far. It's been mixed success, and actually at this point I should mention something related, not taking loans. Someone suggested I should take a loan for me to implement Africanity because it's a business, and I said no. That will not work. But luckily at that time, that's when I was joining the Explorer community, and then the National Geographic gave us 50,000 unrestricted funding, like funding that comes to you and you can do anything you want to do with it. And it's basically what built Africanity. The program is the Wayfinder program. And it's basically National Geographic gives it to people who have shown a very successful track record of conservation, and they're leaders in their own capacity. And then they give you this to kind of, broaden your conservation work a little bit.
Right.
So luckily, when someone was trying to throw words in my ears about their loan, this is when a joke came in.
That's what you're able to
and
use.
then that's what I did to start Africanity. So the successes are mixed, still mixed, because and I understand, I'm not feeling bad about it. It's a new thinking to people, given by how we are so disconnected from nature.
So how does it work? I'm trying to understand. What is it that you're asking of people
to do?
Yeah, to do.
So Africanity, we are trying to reconnect or connect people, especially people from the urban settlements or demographies, with nature through African culture. So the keywords in here, it's reconnecting, nature, African culture. Those are the three keywords. And the idea is that we know that African culture has always been a very powerful vehicle for us to speak about the need to conserve nature and the environment. I mean, we are named about, our names are named from animals. Mugerwa comes from the monkey clan. So basically, I'm born to be a monkey protector at birth. Mwezi is the moon, right? So we as Africans, we have always consulted nature for our own well-being, naming our children, what we eat, how we treat ourselves, how we take care of ourselves. It has always been connected to nature. And then urbanization or civilization, call it whatever you want to call it, came in. We stopped naming ourselves the names from nature. We got our different names that has nothing to do with African culture and nature. This slowly, bits and bits, started disconnecting us from nature. And the consequences are myriad. I won't go even into detail. But one of the key consequences is that we don't care about the environment anymore. Fair enough, because we don't understand nature. We are in a generation where young people, especially maybe not the Gen Zs, but the generations coming after us, they think avocados come from the fridge. They think that giraffes and zebras are mythical creatures that don't exist. Fair enough, because they actually don't get the opportunity to connect with these creatures. So what African is all about is to get these communities and expose them to nature, that, hey, avocados actually come from a tree. And this is a real life story. One of the creatives I work with on Africanity. So with Africanity, we are working with creatives because I had to find someone who understands people. People in the urban centers. I may say I understand people in the communities living adjacent these protected areas, but I needed someone or a group of people who understand people within the urban dwellings. So artists are very good people with this, because people in Nairobi, they love art. They love music. They love food.
Culture,
they love fashion and design. They love all the cool artsy things.
Right.
So it was no-brainer for me that teaming up with artists would be the best group of people for me to help me deliver that message to people who live in Nairobi.
Right.
And they've done really a good job. We just need to start putting money onto that good job they have done.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, we work with the musician, a very wonderful musician. He actually has a concert in March in Nairobi, Kenneth Mugabe. He makes his music mostly on topics that relate with people and also the environment around them. So he's one of the artists we work with. And basically, with his music, we are able to bring this music in people's households and speaking about nature. And when he speaks, people tend to listen to him more than I do as a biologist. So he speaks about the African golden cats in a way that I don't. I mean, unfortunately, but he's more popular than the biologist.
Yes.
So that's a hard reality I had to accept, that artists are more popular, and when you bring their face to people are more likely to accept that message than I would as a biologist. So what we're basically doing with the creatives, now back to the avocado, we work with a creative who does very beautiful art. It's a mosaic piece of art, very beautiful art. We do these art boot camps where we bring especially the young people, because they're the ones who are most disconnected. And then the artist trains them how to paint or come up with pictures of zebra, of a mountain, of a flower, of a chameleon. And we do this in outdoors. And then in one of the boot camps, we are doing it under the avocado tree. And there is this very innocent child, 7 years old. He stops at what he was doing, and then he walks a few meters to where we are and stands under an avocado tree, and then looks up in the tree. And we're like, hey, what are you doing? They should be here working. He said, I'm confused. Why would anyone have so much time to pick avocados from the fridge and then pluck them into the tree?
Yeah.
So, like, this is the generation we are dealing with, right? And what Africanity is trying to do is to basically break those conversations. Like, hey, no. Avocados actually come from the tree, not the other way around. Yeah. And zebras exist.
Yeah.
You just have to get mom and dad and tell them to drive you 300K south in Mwezi National Park. You will see zebras, you'll even touch them. So this is what we are trying to do, but we are trying to do it in a way that people find fun, because biology in itself is not fun enough for people to appreciate conservation.
Right.
So we are doing this through music, we are doing it through art, we are doing it through food, fashion and design, hair and beauty, storytelling. Yeah, basically lots of these things.
Okay, that's really interesting. That would be interesting to even hear a bit more after this.
Yeah.
But now because now we are about an hour, 20 minutes, so I want to wrap up, do another last question or two.
Yeah.
So you've told us what happens because of the influence of your wife. You told us what happens on the professional side and how you're thinking and saying, okay, now I have to think beyond donor funding. How will I make this sustainable? In your personal life, does your investment change? Do you now start putting money elsewhere? Do you now start investing in other spaces beyond just the saving?
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's something that came up from our conversation from the beginning, because she shared her portfolio, and she had bonds here, stocks there, Safaricom there, Kenya Power there. I was like, whoa. And then we started, and now we're doing joint investments together, and I'm really glad that she does. She takes on all the management for such, which I'm very grateful for, because I think like my mind was so scattered all over the place that I could even think about how important this is, that actually you can sit and your money makes money for you.
Yeah.
You know, like we get emails and like, oh, like the dividends are here and this is your cut. You know, I haven't even done anything. It's just in my email and then on my account. So yeah, we begin to see and feel the importance of having these investments and passive income.
Yeah.
And it's something, of course, then you get regrets, like I wish I'd done this when.
Yeah, how many years have you been working before you start making your money work for you?
So I mean, so we met in 2019, and then that is when this conversation started.
Yes.
So I would say maybe since 2019, this is when like we have started.
How many years have you been working before that?
So 2019, from now, how many years would those be? So any time before 2019.
Yeah. All the money you had made before that was not working for you.
No.
Essentially.
No. It was always being saved for the bad day.
Yeah. And the bad day didn't come.
No.
And it's not going to come. And it's not going to come. And it's not going to come. Anyway, okay. So the last question I want to ask you is, because I mean, when you walked in before even we got live, you were telling me telling us how you try and spend a lot of time in Nairobi, because essentially you're back and forth between Kampala and Nairobi.
Yeah.
What are the financial implications of, I guess, being in a marriage or being in a relationship that requires you to essentially travel that much? Are you and keeping up, I'm assuming, 2 houses in 2 cities? The flight cost, whether it is you, whether it is her, whether it's your family, what's that like?
I mean, like everything comes in double.
Yeah.
So like a pillowcase in Nairobi, a pillowcase in Kampala, a car in Kampala, a car in Nairobi.
Yeah.
Like everything comes in doubles, and this is something that we are not very pleased about, because definitely it's into our finances. We don't think it's the best clever way of us managing our funds, but it is what it is. We are trying to get Hazel moved to Kampala. Come on, I'm an African man. What did you expect? No. So, but the reason as to why Hazel, I think, stands a better chance if she moved to Kampala. I've mentioned maybe in passing that she's a dentist.
Yes.
But also what I didn't mention, that she's also a professor at the University of Nairobi.
Yes.
She's teaching at the University of Nairobi. So we are trying to get teaching positions for her in Makerere.
Right.
And hopefully we're still waiting. We're still looking for opportunities. If all that works out, she'll move to Kampala and she'll be teaching Makerere, and maybe find some dental practices where she can practice as well. But at the moment it's not ideal. But again, it is what it is, and it's not like we're not thinking about it, and we knew it was going to be a problem from the beginning, anyways. We knew.
But so far so good. It's one thing when you're meeting in 2019 and you're from different countries to think about long distance will be a problem. It's another thing to live it, and to on a daily basis be traveling and spending the money and all of those things.
No, it bites. It bites because a return flight from Kampala to JKI is nearly $400, right? Dollars. So when you think about, if you do that every month, which we do every month, literally, yeah, it's quite steep. It's quite steep, but we are positive that things will change.
Yeah.
And then Hazel may come to Kampala, and also something I didn't mention, that in one of the programs we have through Africanity and through the Embaka and AGCCA is that we deliver free mobile dental care treatment to communities living adjacent the African golden cat, and Hazel leads that program.
Okay.
So there are all reasons for to come to Uganda. So yes, saving money is one thing, but also she's really involved in the work we do,
right.
professionally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Juan, for being the first 2026 interview we do on the Uganda edition, and for giving us such an interesting story about wildlife, about conservation, about how the whole ecosystem is working, and your own money story. Really, really appreciated.
No, thank you. Thank you for having us. And I thank Hazel for
nominating you.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, so we've been doing this for our guests now.
Yeah.
If you'd like to say something, I don't know whether it's about any of the organizations that you're working with, how people can find you. Please just look into this camera and you can give them that message. That will be part of the episode.
No, firstly, thank you to Financially Incorrect for giving us this opportunity, this platform, and this space to share our story. It's been really it's really been powerful for us to be and share this story with you. If you really want to learn more about the work we do, we are very active on social media, in Instagram specifically, as Africanity. We are Africanity with a double A at the beginning. So it's AAFR. So Africanity. We also have another handle for AGCCA. It's basically A.G.C.C.A. And then we have another one, Embaka Golden Cat at 1. So those are the three Instagram handles. But we also have 2 active websites, one for Embaka, embaka.org. Very colorful websites. Please check us out. And then we have another one for Africanity with a K. Something like this, with a K, Africanity with a K. Again, very colorful website where you'll be able to see the work we do with all the creatives, the musicians, the painters, and of course we cannot forget to mention and thank our financial partners who have walked this journey with us, and who have worked with us, for the past 15 years. And it's a long list. I don't think I can really list all the donors. But Dr. Jim Sanderson and his organization have been a very big part of our story. Indianapolis Prize, the National Geographic Society, Rewild, oh my goodness, Mohammed bin Zayed. There are really, really, really so many, Uganda Dental Association. There are really so many partners that have walked this journey with us, and we are really, really grateful. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, and thank you for watching Financially Incorrect Uganda edition. We will see you in 2 Tuesdays from now.